Even today, the water of Rome's Trevi Fountain comes from an ancient aqueduct.
The Romans would not take no for an answer. Just like they conquered other people, they would conquer nature with their engineering. In the end, for their city of 1 million people, they had 11 aqueducts, 11 channels of over 300 miles, delivering perhaps 150 to 200 gallons per person per day. An amazing amount for the ancient world.
The source of Rome's water lay 50 miles outside the city, in the foothills of the Apennines, where the Anio River flows. But the best drinking water in all of Rome came from nearby mountain springs. This is where the Aqua Claudia aqueduct was built starting in 38 AD. But there's nothing to see because it's all underground. The Aqua Claudia began with a large, deep basin that collected cold spring water. An underground aqueduct directed it toward Rome, following the contours of the land, sometimes boring deep under the mountains. There were no pumps to move the water along. The system worked solely on gravity. A small, gentle slope for about 50 miles. Much of the Aqua Claudia is still there, buried beneath the surface. Peter Eicher is about to show Garrett Fagan something few people have ever seen.
Well, you can feel that cool air coming out.
The front face of this mountain cliff is broken off, revealing the Aqua Claudia tunnel hidden inside.
There's a good channel to follow.
Sure, let's go.
Watch the cobwebs, the bats. You can, right here, I think you can sense the incline.
Oh, yeah.
They're walking in the opposite direction the water flowed. As they move deeper into the channel, they find along the wall remnants of Roman waterproof concrete.
And you can also see that the water would probably, since they've only cemented up here maybe about 4 feet high, and this is about 6 feet high, this channel was not meant to run full.
Yeah.
Be exposed to the air, which was better for the water and better for the aqueduct.
They also find a buildup of hard water mineral deposits, centuries old.
This eventually would encrust the whole channel, somewhere worse than this, and that would be one of the regular maintenance tasks, is to come through and chop this away, and then perhaps to recoat it again with the cement. Now
there was a surprising benefit to these mineral deposits.
Hard water is that they used a lot of lead pipes.
They would coat the lead pipes used throughout the city, preventing lead poisons from leaching into the water supply.
I see. So they had a useful function as well.
Okay. The Aqua Claudia tunnels underground for more than 40 miles, but eventually mountains come to an end. That's when aqueducts emerge in a spectacular display of Roman engineering. Graceful arcades of arches 60 feet high, carrying water in channels along the top. This bridge carried 2 aqueducts, the Aqua Claudia on the bottom and the mostly missing channel of the Anio Novus aqueduct on top. At Porta Maggiore, one of the highest spots in the city, the Aqua Claudia, along with 7 other aqueducts, finally reaches Rome. At this point, the system switched to closed, pressurized pipes which delivered the water all over town.
It can go to all quarters of the city, back up into fountains for the homes, the baths, the industries, and cleaning the drains, and in general providing water for this whole city of 1 million that once the system fell into ruin was not equaled again into the 1800s.
Wow.
Aqueducts were built throughout the Roman Empire. Almost 2,000 years ago, an aqueduct sloped down the Tmolus Mountains to supply the bath at Sardis. It used thousands of gallons of water every day, but it never went to waste. After the water was drained from the baths, it was channeled through this multi-seat latrine as a flushing system. With seats lining all the walls, this latrine accommodated 24 people. It offers a revealing look at Roman culture, where personal habits were surprisingly public.
If you look at me, I'm sitting really very close to my neighbors. If this is a busy time, then I'm sort of sitting here, you know, would I have women beside me perhaps? And I think the answer is yes. Some consideration of Roman clothing perhaps helps to preserve the modesty of the individual toilet users, because they would just simply sort of, you know, pull up their togas and tunics and they could sit here and everything wasn't hanging out. But that doesn't account for noises, odors, which you would undoubtedly hear, which would be remarkable to the modern Western toilet user to think of that possibility.
With the rain, the marbling inside the bathhouse is going very slowly. As they put mortar on one side of the frigidarium wall, the marble on the other side buckles. The mortar is so wet, it settled to the bottom and pushed the marble out. Sections of this wall will have to be redone. For Teoman, this is the last straw. Even though the sky is beginning to clear, he's worried the building won't dry or heat up properly. He needs some advice. But without Max or Tony at hand, Teoman drives down to the village for help. There's no heating engineer here, but there is a baker who fires his oven every day. He agrees to come up to the site. In the meantime, the wood fuel that Teoman ordered has arrived, at least a week's worth of it.
I was a little worried about the firing of the furnace, and I showed him our program and said that we want to fire it in 3 days. But he objected. He said, we will have cracks, you know, if we fire it in 3 days. But if we let it lay it over 8 days instead of 3 days, then there will be a slower, less heat, slow heat, but a permanent heat.
The whole team was looking forward to lighting the fire. But Teoman has made a risky decision: to light it early in the hopes of drying the building. It's a tense time. Will the furnace draw properly? Will the chimneys vent? Will the rooms heat up? And most important, will the building crack? After a half hour, things aren't looking so good. Most of the heat is heading the wrong direction, out of the furnace. The baker will push the fire deep under the caldarium, closer to the chimneys. And a couple of hours later, it's a sight to behold. Not only is smoke pouring out of the chimney, but inside it's even seeping out of the unfinished parts of the doorway between the seams of the tubulae.
You see, the smoke is coming between the seams of the tubulae. That shows that it's functioning. You see, it's warm. It's warm and it's going to give, even the plaster is warming up slowly. It will be all right. It will be hot.
4 more nights and the others will arrive to see it.
Congratulations,
Hello.
It's smoking.
It is smoking, you see?
Good to see the smoke, isn't it?
It's smoking. So you can see it from over here.
It's real smoke, not a cod.
No, it's real smoke.
We've got a smoke bomb.
Right. Which ones are pulling?
All of them.
All of them?
Yes, all of them.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed, yes. Well, I can give a warranty paper for that.
Actually, it's not surprising at all, is it? No, it's just good design.
Fikret couldn't resist a little jab at those who had doubted his design.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Better we
Good
can go
smell.
around here.
Inside, They start feeling the walls to see if the tubuli are heating up evenly.
Here, you see? You can really feel it here.
Yes.
But Max has brought some equipment that can see right through the walls. An infrared camera that shows heat ranges by color. White is off the charts. Red is about 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Then the temperature descends from yellow to green to blue and so on. The black areas are where the tubuli stop.
It's hotter than the flues.
That's right, and it's also...
It's telling everyone where the gases are flowing inside.
Well, I think it's absolutely wonderful. This chimney, look, going up there.
The chimney really looks extremely clear, doesn't
Doesn't
it?
it?
The way it's like a sharp peak.
And that is consistently the hottest chimney with the most gas flow in it.
The way it's arranged at the moment,
With the construction almost done and the building heating up, it's time for the final act. Heating up the bathwater. No one knows what the temperature of the water actually was. But there are hints. Ancient stories of water so hot that heavy drinkers would have to be carried out unconscious. The system they used to heat the water was surprisingly similar to ours today, a hot water boiler. Modeled after a boiler found in the ruins of a Roman bath in Algeria, this one will be installed in the morning. A simple task that will stir up some simmering tensions.
We think the hot water should come out of that one.
Is that the hot water?
As the day begins, Tony and Brian suggest a change in the plumbing connections to the boiler.
The hot water with the cold to that one, all that hot water stays in it. You won't get that out.
Yes.
If you take it out of that one, you'll get the extra.
Yes, but that will be sufficient for our purpose, I guess.
We don't think it will.
Well, why don't you think it will?
Well,
not
because
be?
we've calculated the
The
volume.
tank
of
is
this
designed to have the hot water come out of one of these side connections.
Yes.
So
But Tony and Brian believe that if it came out the top, the boiler would be more efficient.
assume it's at 100 degrees.
If we are going
They might
to
be right.
heat
But it
this
is
up
perhaps
4
one
times,
criticism too many.
it will be
The
3.5
atmosphere
times if we
becomes
add this.
charged.
Why should we take the risk? You know?
Don't you see the advantage that if we're right, then it will work, and we're not losing anything? Yeah.
This part might have been quite sufficient too.
I don't think it will. No.
Well, I
I
mean,
mean, how can you
And
be
the
so
trouble is,
sure?
We also calculated it's going to take a whole day to heat this up.
No, we're just.
That's the game.
Well, we've gone
you
through
say-
this thing before. And
if-
do you know about the heating system? You said you had the same reservations and the dire predictions, and
Yes,
it's
that's true.
it's working like a charm.
It isn't working yet because
What
we
do you
haven't
mean
yet
it's
got it
not
working.
charming?
We
Shut
haven't got
up.
the boiler on it yet.
we haven't got it to 50 centigrade yet.
We haven't got the boiler on it yet.
Who says we have to get to 50 centigrade?
Well,
Do
you
you know
can't go in.
Roman baths heated to 50 centigrade? Where do you take that number? Out of your hat?
No, I take that number out of the American Society of Heating and Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Engineers.
And how does that relate?
Oh, because that is quite well researched.
Well,
Max,
that's
the
point.
engineer,
That's not
wants
the
to
point.
test the heating
You know,
system
Turkish
to its
baths,
engineering
they're the
limit.
closest,
Fikret, the historian,
Roman baths.
wants only to heat
Never
it to
get
the limit of a Turkish bath.
degrees. Never.
It becomes a clash of professional
Wait a
disciplines.
minute.
But it
You've
doesn't
been-
matter
you-
what the temperature
Well,
is.
Turkish baths are all around and functioning today.
Yes.
You've been in one.
Yeah, at a slightly lower temperature.
I have done research.
I know.
I have done research about Turkish baths.
Okay.
It has been published.
But what we're trying to do here.
50 is out of the question. Period.
I think it's high.
But there are not predictions made
50
for
is
buildings
out
like
of the
this.
question. You are talking out of your hat. You have no ground to stand on.
I-
and this bath
I
heating
do have
system,
ground to
you
stand
have
on
no
because
ground to stand
The
on.
argument goes on until they reach a compromise. The bath will only be heated to 40 degrees centigrade,
Put the thing on
but the
here,
changes
put the
will be
tank oil
made
on,
to the boiler.
and then we get the thing going.
The hot water connections are quickly reconfigured. The boiler is moved into place and attached. Max returns to his testing and measuring. This time he's checking the depth of the reservoir where water for the bath is stored. Of course, there's no aqueduct to fill it, so they'll pump water in from a tank. To put everyone in the right frame of mind, Tony, Rook, and Brian don their tunics and take over the operation.